Hey folks, I am Hopsoft, otherwise known as Nate Hopkins, and I just cut a new release of the ModelProbe GEM and wanted to take a minute and show you what the ModelProbe GEM is if you're not familiar. ModelProbe is a gem you can add to your Rails projects that allows you to introspect your ActiveRecord models and the underlying table structure beneath those models. It does that at runtime and is kind of similar in spirit to what Annotate Models does. In fact, you can use these gems together. ModelProbe works at runtime instead of decorating your models, though, with comments and things like that. So, for example, I've got a model here called News Story, and all I had to do to get this to work was just to include the gem in my Rails project, and I normally do that under the development group. So come here and I can probe the model, and it gives me all sorts of interesting information about the model. So for example, it tells me the database engine. I'm using SQLite in this project, but this works with Postgres, MySQL, any database engine you might want to use in your project. It tells you the database name, the table name, gives you the role that we're currently connected to, and shows us the connection config that we're currently using, which is helpful in the case of a more sophisticated setup where you might be spreading reads off to a replica or something like that in a multi-DB world. Also, we'll print out the raw DDL used to create that table, which is helpful for your DBAs or your SQL gurus out there. But we also get that same information down here in this nicely formatted way. So we can see all of the column names, what their data types are, whether or not they're required. Helps us to easily spot misconfigurations maybe in our model where perhaps there's something that's required that we enforce at the Ruby layer, but we're not enforcing at the database layer. We can spot those types of misconfigurations. And we also see the indexes here. So we can spot perhaps columns that should be indexed that aren't, or maybe misconfigured indexes, that sort of thing. Incidentally, what my release this morning did is I have another project where I don't have any indexes on a table, and ModelProbe before this morning's release just assumed that there were indexes available. And in this particular case, it didn't exist and it was raising an error here. So now I trap that and handle that gracefully. It'll just tell you you've got no indexes if that's the case, rather than raising an error in that particular scenario. Another thing that ModelProbe will do is let you print out a fixture. So we can print a fixture. And this is just a stub that we can carry into our test suite. Shows us the data type that we need to kind of fill in the data for, but it's just a stub to get us started over there in the test suite with some fixtures if you happen to be using fixtures in your test suite. Another thing that it does is allows us to print the model itself. So if I print the model, oh, I actually need to give it the correct model name here. So let's do new story print model. What this does is it actually creates the class definition for our model, but it does it in a way that organizes that model in a consistent fashion. So if you're applying this to your models across the project, anytime you drop into a model file, you know that model is going to be consistently organized across the project. I do this all the time in my projects. So it just gives us an area to put things like our extends, our includes, our constants, class methods, relationships, validations. I've seen some pretty disorganized models in my day, and models can grow to be quite large in a Rails project. So this just gives us a nice way to ensure that the structure, the linear structure of those files is consistent. Now, as the project grows over time, that may change a little bit. You may push things into concerns and stuff like that, but this gives us a nice starting point to keep our models very well organized and consistently structured across the project. Anyway, that's ModelProbe. Wanted to show you that if you haven't seen it. And we'll just do another probe really quick so you can see that one last time. Pretty helpful. I use it pretty much in all of my Rails projects. Your mileage might vary, but hopefully you find some utility in this thing. Enjoy.